Welcome to Research Talk. I hope you all are doing well. In our previous videos, we talked about various research designs that we use in case study. In today's video, we're going to talk about data collection approach and methods which are used in case study. As we already know that in case study research design, the focus is the unit of analysis is always a case. So you have a case, and in some cases you can go for multiple cases. However, the unit of analysis is always this one case that you study in detail. As the unit of analysis is one case, the focus is always going in depth. So as a case study researcher, you want to collect data to develop an in-depth understanding of the case. So the focus is always developing in-depth understanding. And to achieve that, in most of the case studies, the focus is getting multiple data from multiple sources. When you get data from multiple sources, it helps you to develop a deeper understanding, a very granular contextual understanding of the case that you are exploring. So this is very not unique to case study, but one of the features of case study is collecting multiple sources of data. In some case studies, like qualitative case studies, I have seen maybe one source of data, could be interviews. However, in most of the case studies, the focus is always collecting multiple sources of data so that you could develop an in-depth understanding, exploration of the case. Further, since you are collecting data from multiple sources, you need to triangulate the data. So let's say I have one data source from here, another I have, let's say, three sources of data. One data, let's say, interview data, the other data, let's say, observation data, and then I did, let's say, a brief survey. So I have interview data, observation data, survey data, or let's say I'm doing a very broad study, so I have documents, archival documents too. So I have multiple sources of data, try to understand this one unit of analysis, which is one case. And once you collect data from these multiple sources, you try to triangulate and understand deeply about the phenomenon that you are exploring, the case that you are exploring. So the two key features of a case study data analysis approach is always looking for multiple sources of data. Multiple sources of data gives you a very deeper understanding of the case. And then also, since you are doing multiple sources of data, focusing on triangulation so that you can compare, connect one source of data to another source of data to understand findings, to have more rigor and have high level of reliability and validity about the findings, because you are using multiple sources of data about the same phenomenon, one case that you are exploring. And if I'm doing multiple cases, so you repeat the same thing. So it's like this whole thing is replicated. So let's say this is case 2, and then let's say we have case 3. What changes in data collection? You are collecting the same data here as well, and then you are doing a comparative analysis between the cases. So this is briefly about what guides our data collection approach in case study. Now let's focus on what might be some possible sources of data that in general case study researchers focus on. So one popular method of data collection is interviews. So interviews, as you already know, are one of the common approach of collecting data in qualitative research. In case study research too, it is widely used to collect data regarding the phenomenon, the case. And in that, you can interview the stakeholders in the case. If I'm focusing on, let's say, one case, which is a program, then in that program, whatever stakeholders, people are involved in that program, let's say there is a program, a unique teaching program being implemented at a school. So this program is the unit of analysis in the case, and teachers, students, administrations, so they are the people who are engaged in this program. So I can do interviews with these stakeholders to collect data about their experience of implementing this program. So you see, interviews are a widely popular approach, and also interviews can be semi-structured or unstructured. In most of the case studies, semi-structured is the approach which is often used. Semi-structured interviews are interviews where you have some guiding questions. You already develop those questions, and then you sit with your research participant, you interview using those probing questions, those guiding questions. But you can also add or subtract questions based on how the interview is overall turning out. So you have some guiding question, but they are changeable. You can tweak those questions. So that's why we call it semi-structured questions. Unstructured interview questions are where there you only have a guiding theme or a guiding principle that guide your like a focus of the study, purpose of the study, main research question that guide the conversation, but you do not have any pre-decided questions. So that's why we call it unstructured interview style. So semi-structured, unstructured. So interviews are popular means of collecting data in case study. The second popular approach of data collection in case study design is observation. Observations refers to the researcher. You observe your participant in their natural setting. It could be approach where you are engaged with your research participants in any activity and also noting down your observation, or it could be like you are sitting aside and observing your research participant in their activities in their natural setting. So observations are also very popular means of collecting data in case study. Let's take the same example. If I'm doing a case study about a particular educational program being implemented at a high school, the program is the case of the unit of analysis, and then teachers, student, and administrators are various stakeholders. Here, what I could do as a researcher, I can observe students in class when they are being taught in this program. So I can note down my observations. So students' behavior, how they conduct themselves in the class, how they are asking questions, how engaged they are in the program. So all these observations I can use. So interviews and observations are very popular method of data collection in case study research design. The third popular means of data collection in case study research design is document analysis. In document analysis, what you do, you access documents related to the phenomenon, related to the case, and then you analyze those documents. So let's take an example. Let's say I want to understand I'm exploring a case of a particular organizations, and let's say I'm interested in the decision-making process in that organization. So what I could do, I can access the board meetings document. So I can access these meetings minutes, those documents, and then I can analyze those to understand the decision-making process used in that in that organization. So document analysis is also a popular means of collecting data. You can also try archival records. Again, a kind of document. Archival records are the records like a historical records or any kind of past record that you want to access to understand the unit of analysis, the case you are exploring. So let's say I want to understand attendance impact of the attendance policies in our school. So I want to understand attendance policy in a school. So what I could do, I can access archival records of attendance in that school, let's say for the last 10 years. And then I can analyze those attendance records and connect it with the policies at the school. So I could see if there is a change in policy, does that result in change in attendance at the school, or is it consistent? So I can access these records from a school district or the school itself, and then I can use that to explore the case that I'm exploring. So archival records are also a good means of collecting data in case study. Another popular way of collecting data in case study research design is artifacts, physical artifacts. Artifacts are materials that are being used in whatever case that I'm exploring, and those artifacts can inform our understanding of the case. So let's say, take the same example that I want to understand a teaching method being implemented at a school. So this teaching method is my case that I'm focusing on. And in terms of physical artifacts, I can collect data related to students' notebooks. I can collect artifacts such as their projects, assignments. So these are going to be my artifacts that I can use when I'm evaluating the case, I'm exploring the case. So you can collect data in terms of having a physical artifacts. Another method of collecting data, means of collecting data could be audiovisual material. Audiovisual materials are video recordings or audio recording related to the case that I'm exploring. So let's take the example that the same method, let's say, if I want to explore a new teaching method, what I could do is I can analyze the video recording of maybe a class or video recording, if it is available, of the intervention being implemented or maybe a meetings, and then I can analyze those audio visual materials. Let's say there is a science lab which is using a new method of teaching students, so I can access the lab video recordings to explore more about the case that I'm exploring. So audiovisual materials are also used in case study research design to understand the case. Further, you can also do survey and questionnaire. Survey and questionnaires are also very often used in data collection in case study, where you can design a survey or you can use a pre-developed questionnaire with high level of reliability and validity to collect data from your research participants. So surveys are also often used in case study research design. Let's say if I'm doing a survey, if I'm doing a case study on an organization, so what I can do for this case study, I can use a employee satisfaction survey. I can develop a satisfaction survey, or there are already a lot of satisfaction surveys available. I can use this survey to collect data from the employees in that organization, if the case is the organization here. So survey and questionnaire are also popular tools of collecting data in case study research design. Finally, field notes are very important tool of data collection in case study research design. So field notes are a researcher's diary or notes that you write your reflections, you write your observations. So you put all these information when you are in the field. So let's say if I'm doing a case study with an organization, so whenever I'm visiting the organization for my conversation with different stakeholder in the organization, let's say if I'm doing interviews or I'm doing accessing documents, I'm doing observations. So I'm constantly having my own diary notes where I make my observations there. And all those observations are also considered data which are used when you start your data analysis process. So surveys, questionnaire, field notes are also important means of collecting data in fields case study research design. So these are some of the ways, popular ways of collecting data. As I said previously, there are two things which are very highly used and they make case study research design very powerful, is triangulation and multiple sources of data. So if you are planning a case study research design for your dissertation or you are doing an independent study, think about these 2 points very carefully. Triangulation, how having multiple sources of data and then using triangulation is going to increase the validity, reliability, and validity of your study. So make sure you think through about these things when you are planning your data collection approach for your case study. Now let's talk briefly about some of the consideration you should keep in mind when you are planning your data collection approach. Number one is richness of the context. So whenever you are planning your case study, always ask yourself like how I can get a rich, detailed data related to my case. What should I do? What might be some possible sources of data? Should I do interviews or should I do documents? Or should I do observations? Should I collect some artifacts? What combination of these various means of data related to the case are going to help me to develop a rich and detailed understanding, rich and detailed data related to the case? So always ask yourself that how I can collect a rich contextual data related to my case. And since you are going to collect multiple sources of data doing triangulation, it is also important to be mindful of ethical concerns that might arise when it comes to collecting data. So since you might be collecting data from different sources, different places, in that case, make sure that you are following all the ethical guidelines, making sure you have the consent form, making sure you follow all the protocols that you have set there. So ethical concerns are important to keep in mind when you are planning your data collection. And finally, I would like to highlight this for sure is flexibility. Remember, as a researcher, when you can start your case, you know what is your case, you start your study, and then after maybe collecting some data, you may realize that, okay, I should collect some more data from these stakeholders, or maybe I should adopt another means of collecting data. So as you start your study, you may not know everything. So always be open and flexible in terms of changing your strategy, changing your strategy and data collection approach so that you could have a rich data for your case. So you may not have all the answers at the beginning of your study. You may have some idea. You start your case and your case study, and then as you move on in that journey of your case study, based on your experience, based on the challenges or successes, you can change, tweak your maybe research questions, maybe your approach to data collection. So flexibility is also important to keep in mind when you start your journey of conducting a dissertation or independent study on case study research design. So make sure you have rich data, rich contextual data when you are doing a case study. Obviously, we need to make sure the ethical concerns related to the data collection and maintaining openness and flexibility as you move on studying your case or cases. I hope this video has given you some basic idea of what are the things you should keep in mind when you start data collection for your case study. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in another video talking about data analysis approach in case study research design. Thanks and have a good rest of the day. See you soon.